Is there a connection between Stonehenge and the pyramids of Giza? Stay tuned and find out on this week's episode of Ancient Egypt and the Bible. Welcome back as we talk about Ancient Egypt and the Bible. Now, this question is a little out of left field, but it was sent to me by Michael Cooper, one of my former teachers. He's a world expert on new religious movements, but he is not an archaeologist. And he asked this question, and it's a kind of a two-part question. And it reads, is there any archaeological link between Giza and Stonehenge? And are the three pyramids aligned with the constellation Orion? Well, Michael, thank you very much for your question, and it's always a pleasure to hear from you. And for anyone else watching this video, if you like this channel and its content, please hit the subscribe button. Your subscriptions matter, and they help the channel. Thank you very much. Now, the bluestones at Stonehenge were erected around 2500 to 2000 BC. And they are roughly contemporary with the pyramids of Giza. And that's sort of where the connection ends. The pyramids at Giza come out of 300 years of pyramid building tradition that we find from the pyramids at Saqqara, Meidum, and Dashur. So archaeologically, there is no link between the pyramids of Egypt, pyramids of Giza, and Stonehenge. But what about the second part of that question, which is, are the pyramids aligned with the constellation Orion? The suggestion is that the points of the three pyramids align with the three stars on Orion's belt. Now, I cannot say if Stonehenge is aligned with Orion, because frankly I'm not an expert on Stonehenge and I know very little about Stonehenge. But the three pyramids at Giza don't show any such alignment. And while the Egyptians did have a very, very keen interest in astrology, they make no reference to the pyramids being aligned with any such stars. And even if one star did align with the pyramid, one pyramid, then the other two fall out of alignment. So there is actually no direct alignment between the three pyramids and Orion's belt. So where did this idea come from? The theory was first proposed by Robert Bouvel in 1989. And then it was picked up and popularized by Graham Hancock. Oh boy. And since then, the idea has become a mainstay of New Age and retrojected into occult lore. So ultimately, it becomes a matter of faith and religion more than a matter of archaeology or astronomy. And the fact is, though, that archaeoastronomy has some difficulties. Not the least of which that the pyramids don't actually align with Orion. But the whole question of alignments is even questionable. Let's say you take a stick and you plunge it in the ground. What star does that stick align with? Well, that depends on where you're standing in relation to the stick. You move 90 degrees, now you're aligned with some other star. And it depends on what day you're standing on. So if you just find a stick in the ground, you have no way of knowing what it is aligned with. Okay, let's say we have something a little more precise. Let's say we have two sticks in the ground. Okay, Now we have a direct vector that points in a specific direction. Does that help? Well, not really. Because, again, the stars rotate in the sky. How do you know what those two sticks were pointing at? And even if you do manage to figure it out, let's say somebody left a note on the sticks. These sticks point to Orion. Okay, fantastic. What does that mean? There's no context there to tell us what a stellar alignment actually means. So even if you can prove an alignment, which is very dicey to begin with, you have no idea what it means once you've actually established an alignment. So archaeoastronomy has been kind of a failure. It doesn't actually tell us very much. So the question then is, do the pyramids actually have an alignment? Well, the surprising answer to that is actually yes. They do have an alignment, but it's not to the stars. Egypt was a river nation. Everything in Egypt rotates around the river. Because the fact is that Egypt was a country that was organized around a river. And the river divides the country in half. You have an east bank and a west bank, and people lived on both sides of those banks. And they would have to navigate across the river. So the river was the orienting factor in ancient Egypt. The temples were mostly on the east bank, and they faced westward towards the river. The pyramids and the funerary complexes of ancient Egypt, including all the mortuary temples, they were on the west bank. They faced east towards the river. Both the temples and the pyramids pointed inward towards the river. And even where, say, the river bends, you can find them aligning with that bend as they accommodated the river. So it is true that there was an alignment of the temples and pyramids of Egypt. It just happens to be towards the rivers, not the stars. Anyway, I hope you find that this video interesting. Thank you very much for watching, and I will answer your questions next time on Ancient Egypt and the Bible. Thank you for watching.